Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. I still have 3 days a week where my kids have stuff to do.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
Crushing when they don't want to do a thing.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
Okay, I guess I'll just let my kids sit in their room and do Roblox for 10 hours.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
It would be funny though, guys. It would be funny.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy, and today we are answering a really hard question to answer. Are our kids overscheduled?
I mean, is it hard to answer, Amy? The answer is yes.
It's not hard to answer.
I mean, especially as we're kind of just getting back in those fall routines. I miss those lazy, hazy, crazy days of summer where nobody had to be anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, unless you were working and your parenting partner's working and your kids have to be in like 18 camps. That wasn't so great either. I think my sister with 4 kids at the same school would argue that school is easier than summer.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I feel like camp, I drop them off, I pick them up, and then they're home for the day. And also my kids come home and play Roblox for 4 hours in the set. Like, it's very different. I remember with little kids being like, I can't wait for them to go back to school, but I'm finding the grind. And also I feel like in summer, we're a little bit more like, dinner, let's get a pizza. I don't know. Throw something on the grill. I feel like the grind of the everyone's got to be somewhere all the time it's getting me down, Amy. It's getting me down.
As your kids get older, there's more places to go. You have 3 kids that have 3 practices and 1, maybe 2 adults to do it. Yeah, it's a lot. And we're going to talk about this. I found an article that Anna Norberg wrote for Slate earlier this year, and she called it activities culture, that we live as parents in an activities culture, or our kids do, and we're there to deliver it. And she made a really interesting point. She said, and I'm going to quote her because I love this quote, "I predicted that the iron grip of activities culture would loosen after lockdown and parents would become more intentional about protecting family time against overscheduling. My husband," says Anna, "took the other side hard. Everything will snap right back like a rubber band," he said. And 4 years later, there's no question about who was right. Things didn't just snap back. It's like we all got launched out of a catapult as the activity, sports, industrial complex roared back to life.
I wrote an article 100 years ago. I don't know if it's even around anymore, freerangeparents.com, about opting out of activities. And it was at a time where my kids were young. My first kid had no interest in sports at all. And my second kid was just quitting soccer. Like, I do not want to do this anymore. And my youngest was not even getting into activities yet. And I was kind of making this argument that we're not going to do activities. We already have Boy Scouts. We have family around. We have other stuff we do. And even with my whole diatribe on quitting activities, I was like, I still have 3 days a week where my kids have stuff to do.
Right. No activities. Right.
And I was kind of thinking to myself, well, I don't have any kids. Now I have one who's maybe picking up lacrosse and one who's suddenly running cross country. Now my kids are more in sports than they were before, but I was sort of like, by opting out of travel sports, I'm not participating in activities. And it's been interesting how much that has proved not to be true.
I am a fan of free range parenting and 1,000 hours outside and all those ideas, but I do always want to push back on this idea that, again, like, yeah, mom, just send them outside to play like we did, mom, because it's not that simple. Because these days, I would go outside and play after school, but I'd go find fun in the neighborhood and play Barbies with Susie Krupski. I wouldn't play with my mom's phone until dinner time. These days, even if you can get your kid off a screen and get them outside, good luck finding a kid that's not either being driven by their mom to their bassoon lesson or inside on a screen. You can't single-handedly make this decision.
Absolutely. You know, we live on the East Coast, too. It's going to start to get dark at 4:30 at night. It's cold. My kids, I will say, this summer, I was happy to see spend a lot of time being like, I'm going to jump on my bike and go to a friend's house and we're going to go hang out and do a pickup game of something. And I was like, hey, look at you guys rolling like Stranger Things style. I love this.
Right, Stranger Things style.
But there's a huge obstacle to that where we live, which is that it's going to be too cold to do that soon. And, you know, the kids don't just hop on bikes after school and run around. I mean, I guess back in the day, we live a little bit more spread out than I did growing up. But yeah, I think the opportunities for like, we're not going to do organized activities and therefore everyone's going to have this free range magical experience. You're right, becomes if you don't have time filled with activities, that is time where kids are generally not doing things that you prefer. They're not just home, you know, writing comic books or something. They're home on Roblox.
Right. And not that there's anything wrong with Roblox, but if you don't want your kid to be on the couch all the time, then maybe you...
Isn't there? I would argue there is a lot wrong with Roblox, but as the parent of kids who play it 24 hours a day. But yeah, no, you want them. I think there's, first of all, pressure that activities are tied to like college and all of that stuff. There's that aspect of it.
We'll talk about that.
Then there's just the feeling of it doesn't feel good to have a young child or tween or teen sitting in their room with a phone with the door closed. That doesn't feel good.
Right.
We know that's a negative, a net negative. And so what are our options to either be overscheduled? Sometimes I guess it feels like our options are to either be Maxie the taxi, as my mom used to call herself, driving kids in every direction to do all these things, or to feel like, okay, I guess I'll just let my kids sit in their room and do Roblox for 10 hours.
Right. There was a study.
I hear that twinkle in your voice.
You hear the rustling of the paper. So I have a study, and it's our favorite kind of study because it's the study where the headline said one thing and then it really said something else, and maybe it really means something else entirely when you kind of scratch. It was every study. So there was a 2024 study, University of Georgia. The headlines trumpeted that this study proved that kids who spend more time in extracurricular activities are more likely to struggle with anxiety, depression, and anger. That's not what it proved. That's what the headline said. And then if you actually read the study, it's totally different.
More activities, more depression and anger. Okay.
Yeah. More likely to have those things with more activities. So it's like, activities are bad. Like, okay, let's really read the study. So the study was they did a time use diary. They had kids and or their parents, depending on how old the kids were, track how they used their time minute by minute over many years. Like 8 years. And they tracked how the kids were spending their time, and they let people put things into different buckets. And one of the buckets was enrichment activities. And what's key to this, like, not so fast, included in the enrichment activity, it wasn't just travel soccer or piano lessons, it was homework. So I kind of think homework should have been its own category, but enrichment was everything that made your kid a better tomorrow outside of school. So homework was lumped in with that. So that's why I think this study is maybe not quite what it's saying. So they compared the amount of time the kids spent on these enrichment activities with their test scores and their successes. And of course, there's a high correlation. The more piano lessons you take, the more successful your kid tended to be. But is that because you had more money to send your kid to piano lessons?
It is. It is.
It is. Is it because the kind of kid who's willing to do 3 hours a week of piano lessons is the kind of kid who's probably also going to do really well in school? Yes, it is.
It is.
Right. So they corrected for all that stuff. They tried to adjust for family income and advantages and motivation. And they tried to just look at well-being and the well-being of kids. Like, how do you feel about yourself? That's where they saw a potential, sometimes negative correlation between having too much to do and being relaxed and happy in life.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is so hard to quantify statistically and then make an individual assessment about, right?
Right.
I definitely have kids who use their unstructured time well, and I have kids who use their unstructured time not so well. And so I have kids who I don't want them to have a lot of unstructured time. And I will also say this has changed over the years. I had a kid who I never wanted this kid to have any unstructured time because it meant that something would get broken in my house or would go horribly wrong the second there was any unstructured time. And that child now has developed a love of a bunch of different hobbies that they're very happy to do during their unstructured time. And I don't worry about them at all. Then I have other kids who've gotten much more into like Discord and gaming and hanging with the friends in the basement. I mean, not the friends in the basement. They're in the basement. The friends are all in their basements.
And their individual basements, right?
In their individual basements. And they may be kids who were really oriented to outside activities and now with weather changes and other things are now much more oriented to being on the Discord server with friends. And so I think that making statistics work for individual choices is always hard, but in this case seems exceptionally hard.
Yes.
Is your kid's outcome going to be different because they play travel soccer is very hard to know, I think, fundamentally.
Yes. And to take the side of travel soccer for a minute, it does teach valuable skills. Psychologists, everybody agrees that unstructured play and unsupervised play is really important for kids to learn conflict resolution and how to self-advocate and to use their imaginations. But travel soccer is also good for teamwork and skill building and building your body and learning about a tough loss. It's not without lessons. And it's not that there's anything wrong with travel soccer. I'm going to quote the study's author, Carolina Caetano, who's from the University of Georgia. Her conclusion, if you actually read the study, she said, we're not saying that all activities are bad. We're saying the total number of activities can be bad. And how many is too many? Who can say? How many hours is too many hours? Yeah, everybody's different. Like it says this in the study, but that you might want to consider the last marginal hour of activity your kid is doing is maybe the straw that breaks the camel's back and dial back that one extra thing.
Wait, what does that mean, the last marginal hour?
They call it the final marginal hour. They said when you look at well-being, that final marginal hour of activities or homework doesn't help test scores, but can harm well-being. Giving kids 4 hours of homework a night versus 3 doesn't really help test scores, but it does cause more anxiety.
Right. It doesn't change any outcomes, but it changes the
But
anxiety.
it isn't 2 hours of homework is fine and 3 hours is terrible. It's more like the total is too much and maybe you need to dial it back for your kid X%. But then they refuse to put numbers on it because you can't put numbers on it. But it wasn't your kid is depressed because they play travel soccer.
You can't put numbers on it. It's different for every kid.
Right. But nor is it like travel soccer is bad and they'll be depressed and you can't have any activities. It's the kids are too busy. And like I said, I think the real sticky wicket with the study is that they included homework as an activity when really your kid could be doing travel soccer and piano lessons no problem if they have 1 hour of homework a night, but maybe not if they have 3.
Right. And I guess they are hard to pull apart because I think what a lot of the study is tapping into is this high achiever goal that people sometimes have, that your kid will be a varsity athlete, will get top grades in school, will be on the student council, will also be an Eagle Scout, that we somehow understand in the abstract that that can put too much pressure and negative pressure on kids, right? This kind of culture of hyperachievement is bad, right? There's too much pressure on kids from that. But that any one given activity might have a great net positive value for kids.
Right. And do you have that much control over, I think we all agree that kids have a lot more homework than they used to, and that it might not really be as additive as educators thought it was. And I think that's being reconsidered a lot of places, but you don't have a lot of control over whether once you choose a school district or a school for your kid, you can let how much homework there is enter into it. But once your kid is in 6th grade, you can change schools, but you can't change how much homework they do.
Yeah.
You can do it when they're in kindergarten. You can't do it when they're in 8th grade. Like, you know what? He doesn't feel like doing algebra. That doesn't really fly. And so you can't control that dial as much as you might like to.
I have a thought. We'll be right back.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
And as we were saying, in terms of like pressure on kids, the schools are getting a tremendous amount of pressure, right? To have the best soccer team, to have this list of where the kids go to college be very impressive, to have, you know, all of these activities available. Like parents are coming in and saying, what do you have available? And it's like, well, what we have available is, it's kind of, what do you call it? It's a self-perpetuating system. Mm-hmm. It's big activity.
Activity culture. That's what the woman from Slate called it. That's exactly what it is. And yes, I think that's a factor too, that you are on the playground after school and you hear that all the other kids have signed up for scouting and the magic class on Thursdays, and your kid wants to do the magic class on Thursdays. You're not like, my child will be a magician. It's not you driving it, but it's your kid saying, please, can I do magic with my friends? And you're like, I guess I'll figure that out. It's on the way to your brother's bassoon lesson, but we'll figure it out. And all of a sudden you're overstuffed.
Yeah. And I do think, and this is not mom blaming, it really is not, But I do think that culturally, the conversations in my suburban community, certainly around child raising, we are talking a lot about like, what are your kids doing? What are they? I think it's a rare person who is really approaching it to be like, I can't wait to make Margaret feel bad because my kid is doing 3 things and hers is doing 2. Nobody's doing that.
No.
But I do think there is culturally something around presenting our kids to each other. And I mean, I do it too. It's not vicious or malicious, but there is something culturally around presenting our kids as like, what are their achievements? What are they doing? That is kind of baked in the cake on some level.
And then there's when your kids get older, or maybe not so old, they really want to do this thing that you think might be too much. My kid who's still at home, I have one kid still at home, she's in high school, and she's doing something that is going to involve us leaving town every weekend. She's doing something outside of New York City where we live for September and October. Every weekend, we have to leave town on weekend to take her to do this thing outside of town. It's deeply important to her. We are so excited about supporting it. She's worried about doing this, plus doing her schoolwork and keeping up with what she needs to be doing. And yeah, like I'm not so sure. It's going to be a lot of driving and a lot of maybe not quite enough sleep for a couple months for her, but she really wants to do it. And so I'm doing it, but it isn't without, a kid can really, really want to do something and it still might be too much.
Well, and I think that your approach is smart, right? You're taking it from the point of view of, okay, what are the pros and cons of this? I think that we're skipping a little bit ahead to solutions, but we talk a lot on the podcast about what are our values as a family. That has to be central to any conversation. And if our values as a family are having family dinner together every night, then when we have activities that get in the way of that, we need to discuss that. Okay, are we willing to not have family dinners for 3 months in order for you to play travel soccer? I would say almost always for me, the answer is yes. My kids are now involved in some activities that mean maybe we're only having family dinner 3 times a week. But that the discussion is always saying like, okay, this is stressful. Is it a good stress or a bad stress? Because there is good stress and bad stress. I do a lot of things, including hosting a podcast and running a podcast company with you that are stressful. I maybe would rather many days like lay in bed and watch The Bachelor, but I choose to take that stress on because I kind of want my life to be about more than laying in bed and watching The Bachelor most days. And so I think you're right to be having those conversations with your daughter and saying, with your child and saying, okay, this is what this will look like for this period of time. And this means X, Y, and Z. And also, what are the potential out points, right? If in a month we decide that this is absolutely too onerous, do we have an out? Or do we have to commit right now and just figure it out? And what's the end point? And what is that? I always tell new moms to circle 8 weeks out from the birth date on the calendar, because the first 8 weeks to me, I wouldn't do it again for $1 million. Just absolute misery.
It would be funny though, guys. It would be funny.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do it to have a human, but man, those first 8 weeks stink. And so what are you circling on the calendar? Maybe it's end of the year at this point, and I have a fall that is kicking my butt up and down the street right now. And I am in that place where I am saying like, okay, if I can get to November 27th, everything will be okay. But every day between now and then may be kind of a nightmare. And I think those are the kind of conversations we have to be having around activities and saying like, listen, if you commit to band and travel soccer and these 3 other things, it's going to make the fall really hard. And you can't quit these things 6 weeks in if they're depending on you. And so I do think that a lot of the focus needs to be in conversations around activities.
You were talking about family dinner and if that's a value that's important to you. That does sort of enter the calculus, right? And so does time with your parenting partner. If you've got 2 kids playing travel sports, it's like, oh, one of my kids used to play travel baseball, which in New York City meant a needle-strewn parking lot near JFK Airport that was an hour from our house and a double header in the April rain. So one parent would be like, it's a 10-hour commitment to drive there and do the double header and then come back. And then the other parent would be handling the other 2 kids and what they needed to do that day. and farewell coffee and conversation. And it didn't last forever, and it's fine, and it's something we can laugh about now. But I think you do sometimes, in that case, eventually with this kid in baseball, it got to the point where it was clear this kid had lost the light in their eyes about baseball. Somewhere along the getting up at 5 a.m. to drive to Howard Beach for a doubleheader, it wasn't fun anymore. And so then we were quickly able to be like, oh, if it's not fun, then why are we doing this? Because it's bad for all these other reasons. Anyway, it's your family time and your time with your parenting partner are valuable. And I think it is okay to be like, we're doing one too many things. Was it Paloma Picasso?
No, Coco Chanel. Take off one thing.
Goldilocks alert.
Back in my day.
Yeah, you got ready to go out to your luncheon or whatever, and then you looked at yourself in the mirror and you removed one piece of jewelry or accessory, and then you were stylishly dressed. You look at the whole thing and remove one.
That is the funniest advice for me, because I would have to take off my shirt, basically. Like, I don't wear jewelry. And so I'm in like a t-shirt and yoga pants. I guess I have to take my shirt off.
You're at the point in strip poker where it gets really interesting. That's how you are all the time.
I'm at the baseline at all times. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about me, Coco Chanel.
You might want to add something, Coco Chanel.
I might need to add something. Yeah, something. My God, please.
So that I feel like that's the advice from that study too, is kind of like, yeah, look at everything and then take one thing away, that final marginal hour. And whatever that is, you'll have to decide for yourself. It's not very helpful, but maybe it is.
Yeah, and I think it is extremely important when you talk about kids being overscheduled, is what is the why of why we're doing this? And so I have a kid who is working towards being an Eagle Scout, and there were a lot of whys when he was young for why we wanted him in an organized activity that was not sports. And scouting kind of fell in our laps and turned out to have a lot of net positives for this specific kid that were important. And then there was a time where we were kind of teetering on scouting, and I felt very strongly and expressed probably at the time quite angrily to my spouse that I had put a lot of time into making sure scouting was something that this kid thrived in. And it took many hours of my time. I was the scout leader. I was in the brown shirt. I was the den parent. I was doing all of this stuff because I felt it was important for this kid who was maybe having some trouble finding activities that were working for them.
And scouting's a container where you can then do all sorts of things that interest you, right? I feel like once you're in scouting, you can find 40 things that excite you.
And I did feel like I had put enough time in that I wasn't willing. There is kind of a time in scouting, at least how it works for us, that like I was now handing it over to my spouse as moving from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts. It's kind of boring, but as it was more outdoorsy stuff, we had a kind of agreement, like now you'll tap in and be the leader of Scouts. And I felt that activity kind of teetering during that handoff. And I really felt like, listen, I laid a lot of groundwork here for a lot of good reasons, and it's not okay for it to just fall apart 4 years in because everyone's a little apathetic. Give me another 2 years and then tell me that everyone really doesn't want to do it, but I'm not really up for 4 years of my work hits everyone kind of throwing their hands up and being like, meh, not okay with me, as it turns out. You got to give it a little longer. And you know, it was a bit fraught at the time, but I think having conversations around that, and I'm finding now with my high schoolers and middle schoolers that, well, I want to quit this activity. And I just had a conversation with one of my kids yesterday. If you quit this activity, it means you won't have access to these 3 things. And I'm not sure you understand the consequences of that. And I want you to give it a month and think about those things, and we will revisit the conversation then. But no, you're not allowed to quit today.
And is this still in process? Like, has this, I was wondering if we, at the end of the story, we're hearing like, and this child is so glad they didn't quit scouting, or is it still TBD?
No, the child is glad they didn't quit scouting. That did work out, and they did end up staying in scouting. And I think it's been very, very good in the long term. And you know, we've talked about this, and we'll have other conversations about when is it okay to let kids quit something. It's hard to know the right answers, but I think your why, if your why is I never made the high school football team and I'm going to make sure my kid makes the high school football team even if they hate football, That's worth examining. I know that I was a drama kid and a theater kid, and I'm interested in my kids pursuing theater, and it looks like I may go 0 for 3 on that dream. So
it's I'm with you. It's crushing. It's crushing when they don't want to do a thing.
I mean, then again, there's another part of me having like lived in a van and trying to do stand-up comedy. I'm like, maybe it's better for them to stay out of the life. I don't know. But the reasons why kids want to do stuff. One of my kids was briefly interested in cheerleading, which I didn't grow up in cheerleading culture. I know nothing about cheerleading. And I will say I had some resistance to cheerleading as an activity. I found it kind of like, ew, I guess. I don't know. I mean, and now I know a lot of cheer moms and I get it. It's a sport. Like there's a lot going on. I think you just have to examine your why. Why are you invested in activities? Why are you not invested in activities? And always keep your sense of family value. Like, what are our values? And does this comport with our values? Is my kid in a phase where their values are different than my values? And is that okay?
Do they value the activities in different order than you do? Like my made up kid is a really good piano player and she doesn't want to play the piano anymore. She just wants to keep doing more cheerleading. And you're thinking cheerleading, like this isn't competitive cheer. This is just
piano is much better than cheerleading.
Shake pom-poms cheer. Right. This is a future. Nobody's going to care in your college applications that you were a junior cheerleader. Like, what are we doing? But her piano teacher's mean and all her best friends are in cheerleading. I know there's other reasons that our kids may value their too many things to do in different order than when we do. So then when you go to remove that final marginal hour, or whatever that is, we're going to remove one thing. Then you might have the problem of you think it should be one thing and your kid thinks the thing that remains should be the thing you thought was a thing that could go.
You just gave me an insight on this, Amy. We'll be right back.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. You'll never see it coming.
I think Janie is ready for ballet class.
It starts with the best of intentions.
I signed both boys up for soccer.
You thought it would be fun.
Oh, look, a chocolate making class at the rec center.
But you were wrong.
Get in the car! Get in the car! We're late!
Before you know it, your life is not your own.
Okay, if I drop Jenny off for elite gymnastics at 3:05, she can wait outside for the door to open at 3:20. Well, I drive Peter to the cross. That gets us home with 5 minutes to spare. And if we hold off dinner till 9:30 p.m., we can still get Tin to soccer and then get Jenny and bring her to chess before Peter's tennis lesson.
You're saying things you never could have imagined.
Mommy, what's for dinner?
Here, your dinner is in this thermos. Move, 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 move!
You're living in a world of strangers.
Who are you?
Honey, it's me, your husband. We haven't seen each other since last Tuesday because I've been doing baseball games and you've been doing ballet drop-offs.
Activities. You've been warned. Congratulations, your daughter made the travel soccer team.
No!
So many, many years ago, I hate to say it, but the term is decades ago, I ran my first marathon. And I bought a book that was called like How to Run a Marathon for the Non-Runner or something like that. And this book totally changed my life. And one of the things that it said in this book that has really been a factor in like every decision I ever make is if you choose to run a marathon, the first piece of advice I thought was funny was like, tell 4 people. You're much more likely to do something if you say it out loud to 4 people. I was like, that's good advice. That's not germane to our conversation though. But the big piece of advice in the book was do not attach secondary expectations to running the marathon. Your only goal in running a marathon is to run or walk 26.2 miles at a time. That's your only goal, is to cross the finish line at 26.2 miles, no matter how you get there. If you attach secondary goals, like I will lose weight, it will make me happy, I will finally see pride in my parents' eyes when they look at me, whatever it is.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Admiration of peers. Right.
There is a good chance that you will achieve something unbelievably difficult, which is running 26.2 miles, and feel disappointed. Please do not do that to yourself.
That's such good advice.
And I find myself coming back to that all the time. And I think it's so apropos to what we are discussing. Are your kids overscheduled because of secondary goals? Are you living a life that is, my kid will go to a good college if they do these 7 activities? Or I will prove to my mother that I am a good parent when they see my child participating in X or Y activities? Or when my child wins the trophy that always eluded me, they will blah, 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 blah.
Or, Noah won't feel less than his friend Carson because Carson got to sign up for magic class and Noah didn't. I'm not going to let that happen to my kid. My kid is going to see my love for them by how selfless I am with being maxi taxi.
Yeah, or I put in 4 years of scouting stuff that I didn't want to do and wore the brown shirt and like went around and held snails in the forest. And now there's like too much water under the bridge. And if you don't make Eagle Scout, all my work was for nothing. And I think it is very tempting. And it's something that you cannot raise children without attaching secondary expectations to them. Like nobody's goal for their child is, I hope they just exchange oxygen for carbon dioxide for 80 years. Like that is nobody's goal. Everybody has dreams and goals for their children. They want them to achieve things. They maybe want them to go to college. They want them to find love. They want them to get married. They want them maybe to be valedictorian. They want them to you have dreams for your children. So you can't raise a child without attaching secondary expectations to them. But I think it's a good audit to do. Why? Why are we doing this? And make sure that the why is pretty close to you, because I want them to be out and doing something that's not being on screens for the next 6 months. And I think if the why is because I think in 7 years it's going to help them get into college, maybe check that.
Nicole Manassi's questions. Is your child happy doing this? Does your child have enough time to get sleep and schoolwork done now? And when you add this activity, I mean, you might stop right there. Does my child have time for friends and family outside all of this enrichment? Has my child's mood or behavior changed in a negative way since starting this activity? That's, I guess, once you've started. But here was her closer that I thought was so important. You'll know that you need to take a break, or that your kid needs to take a break, when you can tell that their well-being has been compromised in any way. Executive decision, this kid needs a break. That's what you're solving for, your child's well-being. And I was thinking about what you were saying before about like you make a commitment and you can't just quit. And it does feel like you can't just quit. And sometimes it would be really lousy if you quit. But Simone Biles quit the Olympics in 2020 because she couldn't do it, right? Like talk about you can't quit now. Well, she did. And she preserved her own well-being. And maybe she would go on to win gold in Paris. And she didn't know that at the time, but she did it. That escape is always possible. No travel soccer team is worth your kid falling apart at home over nothing night after night.
Yeah, I think that's very right. And I think I like all those questions. I'm actually glad you didn't skip, because I think they were all really useful. And I think this is an area, and it's something that this podcast has really, just doing the podcast, talking to you, talking to like our experts, has really helped me think about, is that when we talk about values and we say our values out loud, that I have often had to check myself and say, like, I am stating a family value, but I am practicing a different value. You know what I mean? Like, if it is a value for us that members of our family are happy and peaceful, that is important to us, that if I find myself in situations where I have helped to overschedule everyone to a point where our set point is not happy and peaceful, as much as I hang my wooden, like, in this house we believe, and peace and love signs, I'm actually telling my kids something different. If I am telling my kids, and listen, we all do this, I don't really think that we love our children completely unconditionally. Of course, there are some conditions on the love we have for our children. Our kids, maybe fundamentally we do, but like, we have expectations for our kids. And if they disappoint us, it does affect how we feel about them. But we have to be very careful around these kind of activities, that we're not accidentally saying to our kids, I really love you most when you are the star of the baseball team. We don't really believe that, but we might be acting in that way at some time. And maybe a lot of my personal worth is based on you being the valedictorian. And like, I say that to people all the time. Am I accidentally, and I'm asking this for myself, not for you all listening, are there ways in which I think my values are, I just want my kids to be happy, but really, it's very important to me personally that my kids present well in public, you know? And I think that this conversation, which started at like Our Kids Overscheduled, it's kind of deeper than that. Are we trying to make our kids into something that is important to us if our value is we really want our kids to be themselves? It's a hard question, and I think we will wrestle with it the whole time we have kids.
And if you are that parent who, like, I really need my kid's baseball future is a reflection on me, and you are being the good parent, driving them to travel baseball and making sure they have the cleats, and there's a lot of stress involved in that for us too, right? I would argue that when I had to take my kid to that early morning doubleheader and I had two other kids, I might not have been at my best self on those mornings because I was also stressed about coordinating the intense asks of these intense activities. And it's our well-being, again, like, has to enter the chat at some point, right? Can I handle all this? Am I being the best parent I can to my kids?
Sacrificing yourself for your kids' activities is not a great idea either. But I think that it's also good. And you can, as your kids get older, what's really nice is you can have these conversations with them. Is this good stress or bad stress? It feels like bad stress, but is it? I have a kid right now who's trying to make a team, who is practicing a lot, spent a lot of the summer practicing, and during a lot of those practices was miserable and like, oh, I should just quit. This stinks. I hate this, because it's really, really hard to do. And I think in the end, that is going to have proved to be really good stress. Like, I now see in this kid a ton of pride in the fact that they are going to achieve this goal. But there were a ton of times while trying to achieve that goal that it absolutely stunk. And so I think that there is no study out there to help us here. It is a series of conversations about, as you talked about your child doing, do I want to take on 3 months of high stress for what I think might be a really rewarding experience? I do. And I think it's also fine for you to say, from your point of view, this is also going to be very stressful for me. I have to think about whether I want to take it on as well. And as your kids get older, those conversations go on between all of you. But I like that question list. I think we should post a link to that in the show notes. And it's like, keep coming back to that question list and asking and having hard conversations with yourself.
That was Nicole Manassi again. So I'll put that list on there. And we have lots of good resources in this episode. I always put all the research, and you always put all the research that we do when we prepare these episodes. We always put them in the show notes. And this one is a particularly good, I think, thought-provoking. You can read the study. You can read an article by Jill Barchet that unpacks that study and sort of was like, well, wait a minute, homework it was her work that helped me understand why that study, why what we saw as a headline was more than that. If this interests you, like the deep dive gets you past, parents, the more activities they have, the more depressed they are. Go feel guilty about that.
So you stink. But also, if they don't get into Harvard, you also stink. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It gets you beyond that. You look at all this a little more and like, okay, of course it's more nuanced than that. And you're solving for your child's well-being and sometimes also, yes, your own. That's how you'll know if they're overscheduled.
I feel like the best episodes that we do, for me, I always am like, I'm going to be talking about this at dinner time with my kid, with my own kids tonight. Like, hey, where are we on stuff? Are we doing enough? Are we not doing enough? Like, I think I have kids in both camps right now, underscheduled and probably a little overscheduled. And like, how's this working for all of us? And who needs a little more and who maybe needs a little less? And by the way, this is a conversation and it will be.
Well, anyway, we've solved it. We've solved this. We solved this very nuanced. Your miles may vary forever.
This one we did really solve. Yeah, it's definitely, it's not solvable, but I do think we solved it because I think the solution is always checking in and having the conversation about this and being open to whatever answers come about from those conversations. Friends, the tour is on. We will be in Boston this month. Please get tickets. And next month and into November, we will be in New York, Philly, and Washington, D.C. Go to whatfreshhellpodcast.com to get your tickets today.
We can't wait to meet you guys out on the road.
See you there.